All right. Did that work? Okay, it looks like it started recording. Oops. Awesome. Well, we're excited to have, I'll leave this here in case I need to let other people join, but yeah, looking forward to having y'all here online and in person for the training today. We like may or may not take the whole time, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we wanted to have like some initial time to go through with everyone about our like Associated Students finances and like student life and leadership processes so that you at least have had like kind of a first pass so that when you're like, oh, I want to organize an event or I need a reimbursement, you at least have like a little bit better of a place to start from. And then we'll help you, you can come to our office and we can help you fill out the forms. And once you've done it once or twice, then you'll like really get comfortable with them, but wanting to at least give you this information and have something that you can reference back to if you also have questions later. So yes, Jackie, Director of Student Life and Leadership.
Hello everyone, both in person and in remote. My name is Guru. I am the student engagement coordinator. And then you can find me at Ocean in room 207B.
Awesome. So I'm going to kick us off with a little bit about like AS funds more generally and like kind of like tracking them, managing them. Again, like we can get more into it as we get into the semester and for each council, but some higher level information about that. And then we'll hand it over to Guru to kind of walk us through some of our forms and like kind of pull stuff up on the website and be able to show you those. Um, so I wanted to start off by sharing about how does student government have their money? You all have like budgets that you manage, and so that money comes mainly from the student activity fee. So each student gets $7 fee added to their accounts. Students can opt out of the fee. There's a lot of students that do opt out of the fee. I have to like click through and process those forms. And so we try to like on the website, it has like similar language. We try to like let people know why it's beneficial to pay the fee, what they can get out of it. But there are some people that opt out.
Is there a way to, like, does the campus track how many people opt out, like what percentage of people
Mm.
opt out from semester to semester? Is that, I don't know if that's an information that anybody has
Yeah.
access to or not.
I think we can probably work with the tuition. So like our office signs off on them and then tuition and fees is the one that processes it and removes it. So up until this point, we've been doing like an Adobe form. And we just transferred over to doing like more like a web-based form that probably has like more easy access to data. But I think that's a great point that maybe in the future we can collab and like reach out to them and find out maybe if we can get some of that data on like who's opting out and how many people or many of the students also list reasons. It's just like an open comment box and
Yeah,
it really runs the gamut. It's maybe that would be good to think about like having a drop down of reasons or something. But we could definitely follow up with you guys to look into that further.
Yeah, so
Good
we don't know
question.
like percentage wise, like, oh, there's like 100% students and 3% of them
yeah,
are prepared for waive their fees.
yeah.
But we do know like how much in total, like
Yeah, how much money we have.
like how many reversed it, but we don't know like how many that is a percentage of
Right.
the amount that paid.
Yeah. So maybe just
So
like,
it sounds like we can do some math to like calculate that.
yeah.
Figure out how many students.
Yeah, I think the tuition office would definitely be able to help us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the student activity fee is like the main funding source. And basically that income goes into like the AS accounts. And then well, this is like a whole other thing, but it gets split up based on like the current funding formula to allocate to each campus a percentage of that income based on right now the FTES. Well, based on the FTES at that campus at the time that the policy was made a number of years ago. So I know that there's been a few students who've said like, hey, we should work on reviewing that. And so I think that's something hopefully executive council might be interested in discussing this year is like, how can we better allocate those funds that come in so that it's a little bit more fair among the different centers. And each council then gets to decide like how those funds get spent. But the $7 student activity fee is like the main source of funding. The other fee that students get charged is a $2 student representation fee. So $1 of this fee, as some of you already know, goes to the Student Senate for California Community College for the work that they do to advocate for all California community college students. And then $1 of that fee also goes to associated students on campus here. And so the executive council is the body that manages the $2 student representation fee. What that money can be spent on is a little bit more specific to like student representation and advocacy. I think the way that often gets spent in our council is like doing travel with the SSCCC, but it could also look like there's like a list of like other like kind of regulations. I think I might have put them in the speaker notes of some of these, and if I didn't, I can add them. But yeah, so that's like the main funds that is used by executive council. So those are like our two funding sources.
Yeah, so, the $1 that goes to ASCO, are those fees also calculated in our budget? So like when Jeffrey presented yesterday, you know, like the money that we get, is that included there or excluded as its own
Yeah.
separate thing?
So so the $7 fee is the one that like we get a lump sum of however many fees there are, and it gets divided among each council. The $2 fee goes to executive council, and they're the ones that create and manage the budget for those funds. And executive council also has some amount of the student activity fee money, a smaller amount. So that would not show up in the ASCO budget. But each of the councils and, you know, students at large have the ability to like go to executive council and participate in things. So.
And the most common use for this fund for
Mhm.
representation fees, like the conferences.
Mhm.
The conferences for the registration, anything you be associated with the representation of you guys going on there. That's out of this one.
Yeah, and typically I would say exec council tries to like have representation from each council and going to those kinds of things on average. So, yeah, but they manage at the like the district-wide level. So those are like, yeah, the main funding sources for associated students in general. So you guys have this income that comes in, but in order to spend money, there needs to be a budget created every year. And so part of that is like being in compliance with like laws and guidelines around like responsible management of those funds, because that money is seen as public funds from the students. So yeah, basically to create a budget, like some of the councils are already rolling with it, but some of the other councils haven't started one yet. And we can meet with you one-on-one to get into specifics of how to create the budget for your council. But is taking a look, we can like share information with y'all about like how much they spent last year, how much like is projected that you might, typically it's like however much income you had last year is what councils typically budget around to decide how much income they're going to have this year. The councils also have like a savings account in addition to, so any money that wasn't spent in the past that they could dip into. So like for Ocean, we're dipping into the unrestricted fund balance, which is our savings account so that is being added as like a source of income for this year's like budgetary purposes. And then so putting in all the money you know you're going to take in, and then deciding what categories you're going to spend money out of, and having those things add up to zero. So budgeting where you're going to spend all the money that you have planned in your income. So really it's just like making a spreadsheet, and again, we can help councils that are working on that process. And then once you have that, you would bring it to a council meeting. And right now we're working on that at Ocean. And so they brought it yesterday for a first read. I think for big things like the budget, you want to make sure that people are really like aware of what's going on. And so it's good to have there be like a first read of the budget, give people an opportunity to chime in, bring it back, and then have your council vote on the budget they want to have for the academic year. And then once that happens, your treasurer would sign off. your advisor would sign off, and then the student life leadership office signs off, and then we also make sure that that goes to the bursar's office and that they approve in the finance office. And then they are going to input that information into the college's system for budget management. And once things are there, then we're allowed, like you all are allowed to start spending money out of it. So basically, until there's a budget that's been approved, no money can be spent for the fiscal year. And so this happens every year. And let me, I don't know, I think, yeah, so basically you can't spend money if you don't have a budget proposed already. The bursar's office has worked with us to have, I believe it's coming through weekly Argos reports being shared with us, and this includes like all of the funds. It's like one sheet for everybody. And I'm gonna work on like making sure that that gets like forwarding that to each of like the presidents and the student chancellor every week, or the finance folks once they get settled in. So that your council has an idea of like how much you've spent so far. So this is like a snapshot of what the college's like budget online system looks like. They call it an Argos report. That's not really that important, but it'll show you, okay, the AS Council Phelan, that's Ocean. They didn't update the language when they changed the name of the campus. It'll show you like the different accounts that you have money budgeted under. This is like an old one. And then how much you've actually spent, and then anything in commitments. So that means that you've like promised to spend the money. So for example, book loan, we promised the bookstore that we're going to give them $40,000 for all the books for the whole year. And so that money gets already taken out and like pinpointed. If we don't spend it all, then it'll move into like the actual cost, and then the other money will go back into how much you have in the budget. But that's what, it doesn't come up a ton, but that's what the commitments is. And then the balance of what's left.
Well, then the balance is the overspent. Budgeted.
Yeah, so it can be a little bit like tricky, like navigating these documents. And I know like our office is also in regular communication with the bursar's office. So if you have questions, we can try to get answers to them, especially at the beginning of the year as y'all navigate this. So this is just like one example. It's a much longer document that will have like more things outlined. But so you know, this is like what it will look like when it comes to y'all. And yeah, it was really great. There used to be reports weekly or monthly or something, and then they stopped, and they were able to like help us get them up and running again. So that's a little bit about where you can find information on like the current spending of the year. I also wanted to share a little bit about some of the guidelines around spending the funds. So there's now a specific community college associated student body manual. And this is like a document that outlines the best practices around like student government and like spending funds, fundraisers, all that kind of stuff. So it's helpful. It's a helpful reference document. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, like you don't just read it in full because it's like hundreds of pages. But it's helpful if you're like, hey, can we do a fundraiser like this? And you can go to the fundraisers page and get a sense of what this document tells you. And yeah, there's a lot of really, I think, helpful information there. And it's just important to know like that this guide exists and can kind of help create some of those like guardrails, or like help you maybe answer some questions or get some guidance on spending and purchasing and things like that.
The FCMAT guidelines come from the state.
Yes, yeah, it's basically the recommendations of the state, and the FCMAT, I forget exactly what it stands for, but it's like fiscal management, and so it's for like all sorts of like government entities. They have different ones, but this is specifically for community colleges in California, those guidelines. And I know I went to like a training with them once a couple of years ago, and the guy was also like, this doesn't happen very often or whatever, but like they're also the entity that like if there is like fraud or something, they'll like go investigate it like for particular cases like that fall under these guidelines. So they basically want to create these so we can be like, they want to help us be able to make sure that we're following the guidance and like doing the right thing and managing our funds correctly, proactively. And that's what this document is for. But yeah, they have a lot of really good resources online as well. And then the Associated Students a number of years ago created financial guidelines with the Bursar at the time, I think to try to take, you know, the state guidelines and like have it make sense for the way that processes happen here at CCSF. I believe they were created when there was just one student government and we didn't have like all the separate student governments. So I believe that it was created in like finance committee, which now lives in Ocean. A lot of it is also like kind of outdated. So it's a little bit tricky. I know that there's some interest that I've heard in folks wanting to maybe work with the Bursar's office to update this to have like more updated, clear guidance on some things. But a lot of it is more just like the process or like who to talk to and like people have changed or the way that we request things changes. Not like the guidance, like the requirements and stuff, but that document is linked here in the like the comment notes on the slide deck, so you can feel free to check that out as you have time. Okay, so that is, yeah, just a little bit of the background information on like big picture. And now Gudu is gonna share a bit more about like
Okay.
this
Pero sí,
processes and
entonces no hay ningún problema que le
No,
puedo
ningún
comunicar.
problema.
wanting to purchase
Yo quiero
things, how things
estar
function, if you want to do any
junto con
orders.
nosotros también, como puede usted. Yo sé
De
que tiene.
acuerdo, tengo full de clases, pero sabes, estoy en la
So
cuestión.
just to introduce
Tiempo
myself
que
again
tengo, por
for,
ejemplo,
I know, Lydia just joined us, so my
martes y
name is
jueves
Guru.
salgo a
I'm the
esta hora, ya
Student
no voy
Engagement
a.
Coordinator
Claro que tengo
here, and you
clases.
can find me
Puedo
at
estar un
Ocean
rato en lo que sea que
207B.
yo pueda apoyar
But I'll
con
be
mucho
mainly
gusto.
¿A qué
working
hora
with
dijo?
Cuando
ICC
hay
and also the
eventos,
center, so we'll
Ajá.
have more opportunities to kind of work
y
together
está
this
dentro
year.
de mis posibilidades porque
But
también
I also
tomé
want to go over
high
the
school,
forms today.
entonces, así,
So just a little update. So
con mucho
our
gusto.
department is currently working
Pues,
on
disculpe,
hiring
cuando dijo de que tiene
leadership
tiempo
office
como
manager.
después de los clases de
Martes,
la
will be
jueves,
replacing me.
después de las 12.
They'll be
Salgo
Perfecto.
starting
Yo
hopefully
creo que vamos a
next week.
poner los
And they'll be the
meetings
main
el martes a
people kind
esa
of
hora.
handling the form processing
Okay.
and
Porque
helping you guys
cuando
on that
solamente
side of
soy yo
things.
y el VP
So
ahorita,
just want
Luis,
to
y él
put that out
tiene
there.
solamente el lunes y
My
martes.
goal for today is we have a lot of forms, to be honest with you, but I just want to go over like the main forms that we'll be using kind of day to day
Bye, Lidia.
and kind of using this as an intro rather than dumping all the forms on you like, on the first day. And I have divided it up onto two main finance forms and the events forms. The finance forms are basically forms that you'll be using to both spend money and also to move money around. The main form that you'll be using.
Comenzar ahí.
Uy, súper bien, le va a encantar escuchar eso. Sí. Mil
Y
gracias.
uno puede comenzar del 11 grado que ya califica.
I don't know.
De acuerdo. Gracias,
I do
Mónica.
see
No, but Hashim is in the Zoom.
there.
Um,
Is it?
It was not. That's from Microsoft.
I know, but Hashim was the one who sent the message and he's in the Zoom.
I think I do see Lydia's mic on.
It's not making noise for us.
It's not.
Mute her. Can you mute her?
Let me see. I did.
Yeah, maybe that'll help.
Is it better now, Hashim? Cool. Thanks for letting me know. So yeah, I was saying finance forms and events forms. For the finance forms, there's two main forms I'm gonna go over with the payment voucher form, the transfer of funds form. And for events, we'll also go over like how can you reserve spaces for your events and also go over a little bit about the steps regarding traveling and how that process looks like. I'm gonna move this.
Be a little extreme.
It's because it's not like integrated. It's like
Yeah.
we're sharing the whole screen. I
Okay.
can try to join and then.
I think this should be fine.
Oops.
Yeah. So the payment voucher form, that is basically the form you'll be using to do different types of payments from reimbursing yourselves, students and staff, from the times that we use out of pocket. And also to pay vendors directly, for example, for Unity Day, we bring out different food trucks, ice cream, all that. The way we pay directly to the business is also using the payment voucher form, and the other use is to request a cash advance. To be honest with you, we don't use that often for council purposes because one, we've got a new credit card that Jackie has received, which that's much more easier to process rather than just getting $200, which usually is not enough for the purposes that we wanted. Did you have a question, Nietzsche?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask more about the cash advance advisor, because I never heard of that one, but you clarified it. Please.
Yeah. So just to speak about that, if you want, the cash advance is a way that a club advisor or a council advisor can get up to $200 beforehand, before spending their own money. But to be honest with you, nor most clubs nor councils use it because it requires more paperwork. So basically, you're submitting 2 payment vouchers, supposed to request it, and later on to reconcile if you spent over or under that $200 amount. And the other form is a transfer of funds form. So earlier, Jackie went over, like, for example, the money that's under the Ocean Council, right? That's one fund number. And for example, another clubs have their own fund numbers. Mission Council, John Adams has a fund number. So there is a mechanism, a way to move money from one fund number to the other. There's also a way to move money between account numbers. So for example, Ocean has computer applications account number, and there's maybe 5805 student outreach. So you can move money both between fund numbers and between account numbers, and the way to do that is a transfer of funds form. So just to quickly look at what the actual forms look like. So this is the payment voucher form. And this is directly linked on our website, which we'll go over at the end just to show you where all the forms are. And how do I go back to... Okay. And this is how the transfer of funds form looks like. So this is just a first preview. There's a few examples of completed forms we'll also see. So just that is that. If you have any questions, especially in the chat, or for the people remotely, just stop me at any time. You can unmute yourself or you can write in the chat. So earlier I mentioned there's 3 main uses for the payment voucher. The first one, and the one that's mostly utilized by all councils, is reimbursement. For example, there might be a PR committee and PR decides to spend some of your own money, and for whatever reason, the PR committee decided that, you know, maybe Sabrina, you're gonna get that item, and the way you're gonna get your money back for spending that would be using the payment voucher for reimbursement.
Yeah, I'm gonna be up on that even more often.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, Jack, I've never turned in no reimbursements for nothing we've done, and I should have, I forgot.
Yeah, I think we can try to like help remind folks, like, I think maybe once we have a new, yeah, but it's hard, but yeah, giving ourselves those deadlines to make sure,
Absolutely.
yeah, you get the money back.
We want people to be reimbursed on time, but also there's different ways that now we are creating to avoid that hustle rather than you using your own money. For example, we have like a business Amazon account. So most things that the council wants to buy is found within Amazon. So that reduces the need to spend your own money, and we can directly just use the fund number. But if you definitely have reimbursement, submit it as soon as possible. I'd say that. So whenever you use, go for it.
I was just gonna add, like, a lot of the points on this slide
Uh-huh.
are really good to know.
Yeah.
I'm curious if these are also on the document itself. So, like, you know, if I was a student of a club and I did see this, I don't know this. You know, is there somewhere that they know all this information? You know, like presented to them, you know, like make sure you keep the receipt. The original one should have the business name and address, you know, and other.
Yeah, good question. So yes, there is a place that we have some of this information, and that would be on our website. So basically right next to the forms, we do try to have certain amount of instructions on there that they would need to know to successfully submit that form. I'll show you that at the end. But we also include this information during the ICC training for clubs. So outside of councils, the people that use this form the most is clubs, as you know, Neche. So yeah, we have it different places. So the ICC training on our website. Hopefully, we'll have it here. Will we be sharing this training?
Yeah, so this is already in the shared like folder that has all the training stuff, so you can go through the slides yourself and like see what's linked there and click on things.
Yeah.
And we'll add this video to
So
the list.
Question.
Yeah.
So you said, we have an Amazon account already, we could just use, so we don't have to spend our own money?
Yes.
I think PR, not
Uh-huh.
PR, I think we need a camera. My phone memory is cool, like, if I'm gonna take pictures or something. So, I replace that?
yeah, so you would discuss it within your committee, and as long as that's approved and you guys have money to cover that. So basically, what you would be doing is you select that item, the camera from Amazon. You would take a screenshot or like download that PDF from your Amazon and send it to our office.
But I have to wait for the committee.
Yeah, like you would want to have some consensus, right?
Okay.
So that's basically.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Good class.
The other thing that I would keep in mind with reimbursements is always the limit. There's a $200 limit. So if your purchase is going to go above 200, we would always recommend a direct payment to the vendor or to the business. There is certain circumstances where we can go above 200. There's certain businesses that do not accept direct check. For example, Costco. So we buy a lot of stuff from Costco. Let's say, again, let's use PR as an example. For some reason, there's some items from Costco and it's $500. As long as it's approved by the council, you can get that money back, even if it's above 200. Because Costco is one of those no businesses for the college that they don't take direct payment or check from the school. The other things, again, keep the receipt. Hopefully the original should have the name and address. If it's like sometimes there's receipts that are offered by businesses that do not clearly show their name or the address, and I've seen situations where that was rejected by the bursar's office, and we don't want that, and we want you all to get your money back. Outside of that,
I have a question. What if I wanna be reimbursed for something in June? I didn't turn my receipt in for it.
that's a good question.
Because we moved Long Beach, I'm never turning nothing, we didn't take a place, I never turned.
Yeah. Maybe we need to have a little bit more discussions with Jackie regarding that one, just because it's been a minute, but
Okay.
I would always say the earlier the better, as soon as possible. And collect any also other supporting documents, right? Again, if you're spending money for an event, have the event flyer alongside the payment voucher. The other thing, whenever you submit or the treasurer submits for you the payment voucher form, make sure so on the form. So here, I think it might be better to discuss while looking at it. This is what the form is, and usually on top it says pay your vendor ID. This is basically saying your student ID number. Yeah, and kind of cuts people off guard sometimes. So that's your student ID number. You need to have your your name and also the address, especially if you're requesting for the check to be mailed to your home. Make sure that the address you've listed here matches the address you've given the college.
Okay.
So for example, if the college knows that your address is 123 ABC and on here you put 00XYZ, those two things don't match, so they will reject it and we might have to redo it again. The other is, this is where you would be kind of stating why was submitted, why'd you spend money. So basically you might say here Unity Day, fall 2026. This is where you can attach those supporting documents that we talked about. Yeah. And
I see it says check number up there, but where does it say if you want direct deposit?
good, I'll show you. So actually this side, the office user-friendly side, that's for the bursar's office. We don't submit anything on here. But this is where right here you would make that choice.
Oh, okay.
So either to mail it to your to the address you've listed with the college, or you can also pick it up.
Oh, but you can't do direct deposit. It's always gonna be a check.
Yes. So I think you were here when we had those discussions last time. So there's been some instances where the Bursar's office directly deposited that money for some students to, if they had their, bank account information. But as you can see here, that's not listed as an option. So for some students that had caused some confusion, and we have let them know to kind of make that change, either to clearly offer here that as an option or not to do it at all. To a certain
What
extent.
does put in an account manager's box?
Good question. So that's usually for the cash advance
Oh,
when advisors receive that. So staff used to have, actually, I don't even have an account manager box nowadays, but it's for them in order to drop off their check or for them to get the reimbursement back. So mainly it's the pickup and mail option for students. And we also see some completed forms later on. So currently the way the payment voucher on our website is set up, the one that we just saw, is for the council treasurer, or if even for sometimes for the club treasurer to start the form. So for example, let's take ASCO as an example. You have your VP of Finance. Your VP of Finance will be the one responsible for submitting that form. But you're also more than welcome to submit your own payment voucher form. We still try to have some copies, like some paper copies of the form. So you don't even have to necessarily submit only the web form. You can still submit a paper form. We just try to create the web form to make it easier and to provide optionality. And when the Adobe form is submitted, usually the routing process looks like the one right here. The treasurer submits it, then it goes to the council advisor. In this case, Jackie would be your advisor.
Yeah.
For example, I see Hashim here, so Hashim would be the advisor for John Adams. Lydia, I just see your hand. Go for it.
Okay, I just have a couple questions. If perhaps I have
I can unfortunately
You can't hear
not
me?
hear you for some reason.
Hold on a sec.
Oh, you text me, Lydia, my phone's dead.
Hold on, let me see if I can get my headset.
I can't hear you, Lydia. Are you able to put in the chat?
Yeah, let me. You can. Let me see. Does this work? Hi. Does this? Can you guys hear me now? No. Alrighty then.
Lydia, if you can hear me, just put in the chat and I'll be able to get back to you. I cannot hear you actually.
Okay. Yikes.
Yeah, it's on here.
Oh, is that why?
I can't hear it, Lydia.
I can't.
Was she able to hear before?
Oh,
She was never able to hear.
I don't think so.
She can't hear us.
he wants to comment, he can't hear her. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you. Did you get my email?
Oh, she says she
My
can hear
phone's
us.
there.
Okay.
So it's on the chart, girl.
Okay.
No, I got a text.
That's
about
fine.
that. Oh, okay, I got a text message.
So Lydia, we got your chat, so maybe you can put in the chat because we cannot hear you.
I still think my landlord got me paying downstairs for my water.
Yeah, that does not sound right.
Yeah.
$700.
Well, no, I was Rob's here to pay Paul because I had
I
to
see,
some of
I
the
see.
garbage and then.
Okay, then that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Understand. I thought that was 1 month. So-
Okay. So Lydia's question is, my question is regarding if we have bought things prior to the start of the semester, can we still get reimbursed?
I would say no one should be purchasing anything until each council has like their budget approved so that we can like know that we have that, so then people can get reimbursed in a timely manner. I think if there's stuff that you've already purchased, once your council has an approved budget with us, with the college, then we can reimburse you for those, but I do want to discourage folks from buying things with funds that like budgets that haven't been set yet.
I'll chime in, but now, Heather.
Yeah, thank you. I was just gonna say, usually, financial decisions require your council to be, agreeing and collectively making a decision for you to expend money. And so when we spend money before that happens, then things are not happening in the order that they should. But hopefully, and sounds like Jackie is supportive, but hopefully whatever you've spent money on is something your council ends up agreeing upon, which may make you be able to get reimbursement, but it's not a guarantee if your council potentially does not agree. And it looks like you have other questions too online, sorry. But
Sabrina.
I have a question. I already asked you, but you two were not here. I was asking, can we get reimbursed for stuff that happened like in June? You know, I never turned it my thing for June, my list.
So
Old stuff.
I'm gonna try to
New
answer
semester.
both.
Yeah.
I would say maybe to start off with your question, Sabrina. The thing that will make it tricky for June is I believe that was up the old fiscal year. So usually the newer fiscal year starts
Oh,
starting for us, I think the deadline was July 15th.
oh,
So
just
that
wanted
would
to know.
make it trickier, but the reason I also said let's have some offline conversation is maybe if there's a way, for the delay that the reason was not submitted, maybe we can have a conversation, a way to send a memo to the person's office if it was like some sort of big circumstances that for a reason you could not submit.
It's procrastinating. Okay, thank you.
no, you meant you were struggling.
I am, that's why I do these straight.
But and Lydia, I was gonna say before I read your second chat, I was gonna say I do second what Heather and Jackie said. I do have also my own follow-up questions to you, but from what I know, if we're discussing about mission does not have an approved budget
No.
as of now.
That's
That's
the council's too.
yeah. So meaning there is no money at this point in time to be able to spend. Even if there was a budget, I would highly discourage from anyone from making personal decisions or individual decisions regarding how to spend those funds. The decision should definitely come from the full council that represents that center. And also the second question, Hashim, you mentioned any specific vendors we should not do business with. The city and county of SF has rules which companies we can purchase from. That's a good question. The only thing I do know about businesses is if the business has been added as an approved vendor with City College San Francisco, and if they've not on our end, there's a way to do that, which is they submit the vendor information form. It's actually on this site that we'll go over with, and they just submit their W-9 form. But if after they submit that, if there is any additional reasons why they would not be an approved vendor, we would need to get that from the purchasing office. But for now, it's either they are an approved vendor for CCSF or they're not, and if they're not, there's a way they can become an approved vendor. But outside of that, there is no specific vendors that we don't do business with that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I think the other piece is like I forget the exact threshold amount, but if there's like a lot of money that's gonna be spent, like I don't know, what is it, like 10 grand, or I don't know the exact amount, but if you're buying like something really big, then the college does have a requirement to do like a bid process and like look at multiple options to make sure that we're like being responsible with how the college is like spending its funds and like the public funds. But yeah, I think outside of that, like it's usually easier to work with vendors that are already on the approved list and you can connect with purchasing. And there's also some that like Mr. Softy, we've used them a bunch of times. We know like there's some that like we can probably tell you to recommend if you
Yeah.
questions.
Also, just a follow-up for Hashim, like if there's a specific vendor, for example, that John Adams wants to use and you're not sure, you can just reach out to our office and we can get that information for you. If they're an approved vendor or not, and if they're not, you can already find the forms, but I can also send you the forms they will need to submit in order to be added as an approved vendor. So the second part of your follow-up, Lydia, I'm not talking about anything big here, like small cleaning items and a few things for bulletin boards in the office, but not like anything that would add up to much. But everything adds up. Yeah, again, on my end, my response still stays the same. there is no approved budget that if we're specifically, I'm guessing we're talking about the mission council that the mission council has approved. So there is no funds to spend out of. And I would personally wait for that before having any expenses. And hopefully once you have passed your budget and approved that, even during that time, even if it's a big purchase item or small purchase item, I would still make sure that that purchase is approved by your council and by your council advisor. And I hope that answers the question. So second part of the payment voucher that I want to go over was earlier we went over reimbursements and how we can use the payment voucher to reimburse students within the council and also staff that spend their own money. And the other way we can utilize the payment voucher form is to make direct vendor payment, which is usually the most preferred outcome because one, students or us are not having to use our own money and the business gets the money directly from your fund. And for that process, usually, people use that for different reasons. One, if it's above $200 that I mentioned, which is the must in that instance. And yeah, so if you're trying to have a direct vendor payment, first thing first, you have to make sure if that vendor is an approved vendor, and as I stated for Hashim, if they're not, there's a way they can be. It's not a complex process. It can usually happen within a day as long as those forms are submitted to the purchasing office. And once we have confirmed that they are, an approved vendor with CCSF, you would need to get an invoice or a quote from the business in order to include it with a payment voucher for payment.
Does that includes the Amazon or?
No, Amazon is
Amazon.
completely
Amazon.
different. Yeah. For the Amazon, how it would work is,
That's your account.
yeah, we have an account, our office manager manages it, and we would directly be able to, for example, again, to use PR as an example, PR has a specific fund number, and you would be able to put that fund number, and we would be able to put the specific account number to directly come out from that.
Okay.
And usually that's also one of the reasons why Amazon is preferred. It's very direct, very easier process compared to any of the other ones. You'd get a invoice or a quote that you would use as supporting document for the payment voucher, and always anything that's attached to the payment voucher as a supporting document needs to be initialed by the treasurer and the advisor, just to confirm the validity of the supporting document. And after that, you just submit the payment voucher for payment. Let's see. I don't know how I can see the speaker notes, but I have some examples.
I think if you stop the presentation mode, if you click escape, you can go back some.
This is tough.
Then if you don't pull it on the floor.
Okay, I do have one. So for example, this is just one actual payment voucher that we've used last semester to pay a vendor directly. In this instance, the vendor that was getting paid was La Corneta Taqueria. So again, same thing with the reimbursement, but for when we were making direct payment to the vendor, you would be inputting their vendor ID as you'd be using your student ID for yourself. In this instance, all approved vendors will have a vendor ID that's provided to them by the purchasing office, their business name, their business address, and the other part will be kind of similar to how you'd submit a reimbursement. You'll just mention the items that was bought, the event it was bought for, how the reimbursement will look like, and also usually for vendors, it's usually mail to pay, because for them, when they submit a vendor information form, if they choose the direct deposit, they will actually just directly deposit for them. And then you would be attaching the invoice as a supporting document that we talked about earlier. As you can see, there's two initials, which is the advisor and the former finance and treasurer. And this is how it would look like. Lydia, just to be sure, I don't know if your hand is up from earlier or it's a new one.
I think it's stayed up.
Huh?
I think it's been up the whole time.
Okay. In case if it's
Maybe.
yeah, in case if you still have questions, because I cannot hear your voice, just put it in the chat and I'll be able to read it. So yeah, so this is how we'd use it for direct vendor payments. So earlier talked about reimbursement. Now we can use the payment voucher to directly pay businesses. Again, the direct payment to vendor is always better. Don't have to use your own money. The business gets it directly from the college. Easy peasy. So the other part that I want to talk about, it's kind of similar to the direct vendor payment, but I want to speak about this one a little bit specifically on its own, is when we are paying speakers or performers. So AS can choose to have a speaker or performer for one of your events. In that instance, yes, they're a vendor that you would pay as, for example, like La Corneta, but because you are giving them a contract, there is an AS contract that would need to sign and approve before that. And usually that contract could also act as the invoice, if that makes sense. So this is the AS contract for. So whenever whether it's a resource center or a council decides to use AS funds and decides to hire the speaker or performer for their events, you need to make sure both you and the speaker fill out this form. Heather.
Yeah, I just wanna say, just so that everybody's aware, because this has come up in the past sometimes when you go to pay individuals to speak or perform. People are not always clear when they commit to do something that this is gonna be a taxable source of income for them. Because they're filling out a W-9 and considered like an independent contractor, right? It's like self-employment earnings. So just to be clear about that when you're looking to compensate someone, because some people want that, some people don't want that. I've had people decide that they would rather volunteer than be taxed because it
Yeah.
can increase their income and put them into another tax bracket.
Yeah.
Depending upon what they already make outside of all of them. But I wanted to ask a question about the vendors list, because this is also something that comes up all the time. Is there a way we could be more transparent about who is on the vendors list? Because I think a lot of times when people want to use a vendor like a club for an event that they're hosting, they have no idea who's already on that list. And so sometimes the process can take longer or may not even happen in enough time because that company is not even on a vendors list.
Yeah.
So I wish there were like a shared document so you know who's already on there to know what the options are to pick from.
Yeah.
Or clarification on how to get people onto the vendors list.
Yeah, that's a good question. So regarding the vendor list, we've asked purchasing in the past, and there is no active list they provide. So our workaround has been, whether it's a club or a council, as I mentioned, Tahachim, if there's a vendor you want to use and you're unsure, just go through us, ask our office, and we'll be able to get that answer for you from purchasing. But unfortunately, there is no active list that's managed by the purchasing office where you can go and kind of control F and see.
I think maybe that's part of our advocacy, or maybe if we create one based on the information we can get or something, because this is just a recurrent issue.
But one thing for example, I personally did, for some vendors that I know AS has been using, I just have a little list on my own that I just give to whenever people ask me. But that's a very small list of vendors that AS has used in the past, or I know they're part of the system.
Yeah.
But one good thing I would say is even if the list does not exist, purchasing is pretty fast when we ask them about, hey, is this vendor approved or not? So there is that.
Yeah.
But the list, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a conversation with purchasing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just think as student leaders, it's an advocacy opportunity.
Absolutely.
Especially supporting local businesses or Black-owned businesses, or I don't know, people that care about us that we should care about.
Right.
Versus some of these corporations that we give our money to.
Thank you for putting in the chat, Amy. So there's this link that Amy we can maybe see it right now. Oh, so okay, awesome.
So but
It's
it's not like updated or anything, but it's at least a start.
okay. This is awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing this, Amy.
We can add that, hopefully I'll remember to add that to the speaker notes so that you'll access that later.
Okay. So yeah, so you have the ACE contracts for speakers and performers, and again, when you hire a speaker or performer, again, if they're not if they're not an approved vendor, they will need to be an approved vendor, and that's the same thing as any other vendor. You would submit the vendor information form and their W-9 to the purchasing office. But Heather, going back to your earlier point regarding whether it's taxable or not taxable, usually this is a good point where they catch it, I've seen. Because when they're asked to submit the vendor information form,
Exactly.
it's usually included on there.
W.
And at that point, I have seen some vendors kind of just opt out.
Exactly.
And so I do know. So usually that's where they catch it. But once you have made sure your speaker or performer is an approved vendor, the next part is making sure you have a valid contract with them. And I have seen this contract again be used as the final invoice to make payment to that speaker or performer. So we want to make sure like everything is right, the time they're going to present, how much you've agreed per hour fee, and all that good stuff. And once you have a valid contract, then you can move ahead and submit a payment voucher to make sure the vendor is paid and they're compensated for their performance or whatever they're there to do. Again, start early so the vendor setup is easy and contract review are finished before the event. I agree. Okay, so I think we have talked enough about payment vouchers. Again, this is a lot of information on a fire hose, so I get it. So it's just an initial kind of trying to get you up to speed. But if you have any questions about some of the things that we discussed today, just submission of payment vouchers in general, I will be a good resource in the meantime. But also once we have our new student life and leadership office manager, this will be their main kind of one of their duties in helping you process these forms. So you'll have enough support throughout. The next part that I want to talk about is space reservations, on how you can reserve spaces across campus for your events or meetings. So I know there's a lot of different ways to reserve spaces. Here on campus, I know faculty have their own way of sometimes reserving rooms. I know we even on our own have multiple forms on our end, but I try to simplify it as much as possible and just try to have just 2 forms up here. So what I would say is if you're trying to have any events that are AS related, whether they're within the student union, outside of the student union, I would always say submit the event request form, the student life and leadership event request form. This is the event request form that our department owns and make sure to approve. And the reason I said submit this, even if it's outside of the student union or outside of spaces that we manage, is that let's say let's take exec council as an example. Exec council has their meetings in the Student Success Center, and it's not the student union. And this form, if you fill it, does not do nothing for that, but still filling it out will make sure that I and our office puts it in the calendar, make sure that we are aware of it. So I would always say submit this form and make sure this is done. And this form will be the only form you'll need to submit if the event is within student union and within normal working hours. So, for example, if you're trying to reserve 208, upper level lounge, lower level lounge, and it's Monday to Friday, 9 a.m., I think 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., that's it, you're good. However, if your event is outside of the student union or areas that we manage, then you need to submit the application for use of district property form that I've linked up here to reserve that actual space. I know, again, as I said, this is not the only, event.
So if we wanted to use the 140 HBB, it would be
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's actually, let's take that example. So let's say you're having that event at HBB 140. I would still submit the event request form, right? The earlier one, so that our office is aware of it and we have it for you on the calendar. And if there's any support that we can provide, we will but this will be the main form that will actually reserve that space for you. If you have just submitted the event request form, HBB is not gonna be booked. This forms needs to be filled out and needs to be approved by the Facilities and Events Committee, and that's how that reservation will work. Heather?
Yeah, thank you so much. I was just gonna say, again, transparency is an issue.
Yeah.
With this, and I know that this is outside of student life and leadership, but I also think it's an opportunity for us as student leaders to advocate because there's a lot of back and forth that happens with trying to solidify days and times and locations. If we had a calendar where we could see what was already happening within a space, then we wouldn't really be wasting our own time or that of the individuals that are on the receiving end of an influx of emails trying to narrow down a time. And there's so many of us at the college requesting same dates, same spaces, that we run into lots of obstacles. And so I have seen a lot of people, even though we have nice newer buildings that we'd like to utilize, defer to using the student life and leadership spaces because they are
It's
more
easier.
accessible.
Yeah.
You know, but what I have heard from students is we want to be everywhere. We don't just want to be relegated to a particular building or space.
Yeah.
And so that's just another thing I just want to add in here.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think honesty is the best policy, to be honest with you. I give that recommendation to students because I just know, like, I know how our event request form is managed. I can, quickly approve it or even deny it, but I know the turnaround time is kind of
Yeah.
quicker, and I don't know the full conversation, but I know the school's kind of working on having like some sort of calendar, but I don't know if that's gonna work for event reservation, so
Yeah, there's like a couple things I feel like the new system is like maybe for like events, but I'm like. I'm with you and I'm happy to support advocacy on this because it also
Yeah.
annoys me. But I've worked at other colleges, including California community colleges, where there's like an all-campus online facilities reservation where employees can go in and like view all the available times and spaces, put in requests, and each of the relevant areas can still approve those requests, but it just makes it a lot more streamlined and straightforward. So I think that would be something that I don't know, I guess, yeah, like if that was of interest, like we all could work on coming up with some like research and proposal and like talking to facilities, it could be a project that we could help push that would help everyone on campus, so.
Yeah, I just want to give an example. So in a previous year, I invited Scott Wiener to come and speak at the college for a basic needs listening forum. And the fact that I didn't have access to a calendar to look at, like, I can't go back and forth with his office. Like, that man is busy, just as busy as we are here. And then even now, like, there are, I think, certain clubs and even student leaders interested in holding a congressional candidate forum and inviting Connie Chan and Scott Wiener. But it's like, we're going to be working around them, not the other way around. But like, having access would make life so much easier. Because otherwise, it just is like, it damn near didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just really think this is a big deal. And I know that a calendar exists internally. Because I've seen it in the past. At least for HBB 140 and that space, I just don't understand why it can't be shared. Like, or why we can't have it on the website. So I would love for us to advocate.
Again, as I mentioned when I came up with this slide, there's a lot of ways to reserve spaces. Even on my own, when I was trying to put stuff on this slide, I was struggling trying to figure out what should I include and what should not, because there's different ways people reserve spaces. As I mentioned to you, clubs sometimes just go through their advisors to reserve classrooms. There's this multiple,
Oh, sorry, something else came up. I don't mean.
No, go
but
for it.
Also, I feel like there's a separate process for the Student Success Center.
Center, exactly. I was
Which
gonna
is,
say.
I don't know, is that on here?
No.
No,
I think for my part, if folks want to use the Student Success Center, filling out the event request form brings it to me in Gudu, and then
So
I can go, like, then we can take that step to go in and like check it and book it without needing to do the use of district property form
Yeah.
for that building, only because it has a weird different process.
Okay, so then, that brings me to the thing, when we have the town hall, when we have to wait for the other group to get out the room. Wasn't that the town hall? We had to wait for them to get out the room and then we was rushing to set up, yeah, pizzas and stuff. What happened? Was it double booked or they was late?
I can help with that.
Yeah.
So I had booked the space and I had booked 30 minutes prior and 30 minutes after, which is typically what I do for setup and cleanup of a meeting. But what ended up happening is their event ran over some.
Oh.
And so we weren't able to get it situated in time. But that's sometimes the things that happen when two different groups need a space on the same day, close to the same time. I do wanna say though, about the Student Success Center, I am finding that people are reserving here and reserving there because they're the two easiest spaces to reserve. Because the other spaces are less accessible. And thank you for clarifying for us that if we use the event request form, y'all can do that. I would have never thought to do that. I have literally gone to other people in that building asking them to help me through Microsoft Outlook because they have access as employees to reserve a room.
Right.
So now I know process, but does that event request form say on it anything about Student Success Center reservations?
There's other.
No, there's other, yeah.
Other.
Okay,
So
can we
be-
change that so it's clear?
So maybe that's something we can have a discussion about. So
Yeah,
we are trying to, at least our thought process when we're looking at the form,
yeah,
the spaces that are listed on there on the event request form for student life and leadership are spaces that the form can actually reserve for you.
yeah,
Right? For example, 208, upper level, lower level. So the other part kind of helps us kind of just be notified and know that, you know, you're planning on having an event outside of those spaces that we actually reserve. But we, like, for example, within student success, but even for MUB and stuff like that,
I
when
see,
Eclipse admits that, we will kind of offer that support to
I
help you.
see.
Yeah. So that's why I kind of put that the first. As long as you submit the event request form, the student life and leadership, even if it doesn't specifically reserve that space for you, at least our office is aware and we'll be able to kind of follow up. For example, when clubs submit like, oh, MUB 140, whatever it might be, I'll be like, hey, great, we received it. Natasha reserved that space. Now submit this, fill out this application for use of district property form. It will just make sure our office is aware and we'll come in as that support.
Yeah, because when you
And
fill,
student success is one of those, yeah.
when you fill out the student life and leadership form, like if we get that and like Voodoo said, it says, oh, we want to preserve MUB, whatever. We don't approve it until we have like the signed approved use of district property form. Like, okay, it's been approved for them to have it in MUB, so we can approve like having the event as student life and leadership. So, but I think that's right, like it triggers us to reach out to be like, hey, we can't approve this yet as like the club event because you don't have room reserved yet. And then we can like have that opportunity to help them
Does that
with
make
the
sense?
form.
I mean,
via
it
the form.
does, but this sounds like we're working really hard. I don't know. I feel like this somehow needs to be streamlined, not necessarily what you're talking about, but even as I'm saying this out loud, I wouldn't want someone to get the impression
Yeah.
that in order to reserve a space in the Student Success Center, they would need to complete this form. But somehow some clarity that if you are part of student government and leadership and a club, that you fill out this form and that there are spaces beyond the ones listed that are options. Like, I almost wish the other could have a list of other options.
But they're not technically options that this form can reserve. They're just,
But you're saying you can help support with that
Support
if you
with that.
know.
but they can choose any space they want and we'll support with that, if that.
Yeah, yeah, I think we can definitely talk more about like if there's like things that we
Does
can
that?
update on the forms and the processes. But I do want us, like, I think that's like maybe a separate conversation we're
Yeah,
getting
that's
into, it
fine.
kind of makes them better.
For example.
And I wanna make sure we're like, here's how it works now, and then we can also talk more later about like, let's fix it,
Yeah,
make it look
like-
better.
Yeah, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
So, no, y'all fine, just clarifying question, because I wanna make sure that I get this correct. And then I also wanna say that there was 2 hands up online.
Yes.
I don't know if they're still,
Thank
but I wanna say this, so what you're saying is, even if I do it here for, I don't know, the newest building,
STEM.
101 STEM.
Yeah.
I can't do that, I have to go through them anyway,
Yes, for that,
and then
yeah.
y'all are just in the know.
It's a 2-step.
So it's like student life and leadership of
Yep.
approving
Yeah.
your group having the event, like your advisors approving you having an event, and that's what this form is mostly for. And then the ones we supervise, we can check it off. But for the other ones, you still have to fill out the use of district property to get permission we're not in charge of STEM, I don't, you know, like to get that permission to say that room is available. And then we're saying like, great, that's an event you can, right? Like you're not like having like some sort of like inappropriate event or something that like the council didn't approve of you doing, or, you know, like stuff like that. It's more of like our student leadership check.
Just to clarify, which step comes first?
Fill out
Leadership.
the student life leader
Okay.
form. And then you can subsequently also like fill out the use of district property form, like there's nothing keeping you from doing those like at the same time, so that that process can get started, cause it takes a little while for everyone to sign the use of district property form and to get it back to like
Yeah.
to get it approved by the facilities events committee.
Mhm.
And then for us to know, okay, cool, it got approved by everybody, now we can say, yes, this is an event you can start advertising for your club. It's a mess, I'm not gonna lie, it's a mess.
No, like, plus also facilities committee doesn't meet with a level of frequency that, anyway,
Yeah,
you're right,
it's a mess.
offline,
It's
sorry.
I also-
I think we can.
Well,
Don't-
Addison though,
Addison,
my
Addison.
apologies, Addison.
Addison, please, go
Oh,
ahead.
I also did want to say, like, I don't know if
Okay,
this
same
is-
thing, can I hear you?
Oh, okay, wait.
Is it-
Sorry, I think it's like our funky, oh, maybe it's the.
Nah.
Here, I
You
can
just
type
put
it.
in the chat, Addison, I'm sorry.
Yeah, apologies.
Our
the audio.
Zoom thing is still getting like fixed, so we're just plugged in
Yeah,
to do screen share,
yeah, take your time and just put it in the chat.
integrated.
So she unmuted, but we can't hear her.
Yeah. Didn't know there was gonna be some scenarios.
No, the scenarios are good. I did think about the scenarios, but if you're having an AS event or a club event, always send the student like a leadership event request form. If it's within student union and areas that we manage, that will be the only form.
Yeah.
But if it's a different area, you submitting that form will make sure that we are at least in the know to be able to support you to figure out whatever that process is to reserve that space.
I wanna say I was 10 years old when I found out that was the expectation,
What expectation did you think
like
it was?
the communication with you all if we're reserving in another space.
Yeah, so if
So I
for
didn't
for example,
I apologize for
no,
not following.
that's
fine
fine, because it technically it makes sense. If you don't fill out that form, there's no way that our office will be aware of it, because unless maybe you submit the application for use of district property form, and I know the facilities and events committee kind of sends out blasts every 2 weeks. But the main way our office to be aware is that form. Other than that, yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
No, don't apologize.
So did Addison write? Okay.
I just want to say that there is a 10-day policy with facilities. So if you wanted to book, you have to put in the request at least 10 days in advance to the room booking. The process is messy, but from what I've learned from the process is that unless facilities has changed, they meet every Tuesday in the mornings.
Thank you.
Thank you. That information is very helpful. And I can second. I don't know about the day, but what I can second is the 10 days.
Mhm.
Cool. And I just want to open up the application for use of district property form, just to, for people that, in case are not familiar with it, and this is how it looks like. And we submit it to this email up here. And here is their 10-day requirement.
And it's 10 days from the time you submit the fully signed form to the facilities committee, so it's always good to start a little sooner because it might take a while for you to get your advisor's signature and like get, you know, have it go to where it needs to go.
Thank you for that, Absent. Okay, the last part of my slide is to talk about a little bit about travel and off-campus activities. The process is a little bit different for councils and clubs, but for off-campus activities, I kind of want to maybe defer to Jackie to speak about a little bit of your expectations regarding
Yeah,
travel.
I'm trying to create like more of a comprehensive document, so I'm working on it and I'm chatting with Fudu and I'm gonna chat with Amy so that we have something like very concrete to put on the website and to share with all of your councils. I would say like for like any off-campus event that's happening for any AS group, like a council or clubs, the off-campus events and activities form should be filled out. So like your council or your club would be like, we want to do a trip. Here's our plan to do the trip. You approve it during your meeting. And then whoever at that meeting, whether it's the president or someone else, whoever you want to designate at your meeting, needs to fill out the off-campus events and activities form, because that's how we know that you want to do an off-campus event and activity and we can track it. And then yeah, basically like we'll connect and make sure that typically we'll like meet with like the advisor or like someone from the council to get more of the details to make sure that they know, especially for clubs, like to make sure that folks know the guidelines and the regulations and like the forms that need to get filled out and things like that. Because there has to be like an advisor present at any off-campus travel. And so making sure that folks know about that, are gonna abide by the guidelines, and that's part of the plan, and we can approve the off-campus event to take place. Again, it's a little different for each group on like how, like, you know, if it's a club that's gonna do a day trip and like get reimbursed for food, right? That's like not a lot to like plan for in advance. But well, okay, so I'll go back to the list. Number 3 is there's a field trip waiver form and travel agreement. So I know some of you have been on our trips before. There's 2 forms and they're together now. So you just fill out one thing. And so it's a liability waiver for the college saying like, hey, I know I'm going on this trip, and like if I trip and fall at the airport, I'm not gonna like sue it doesn't say this exactly, but that's the vibe that you're like, okay, like I acknowledge that there's risk being taken. You can still sue, but
Well, no, I wasn't.
I
I was gonna sue SFO.
yeah.
I know who got more money. I'm joking. All joking.
Yeah, basically, you're acknowledging that there's risk inherent in travel is the deal. And then you're telling us who your emergency contact is. So like if something goes on, like I can help you figure out what's happening. And then the second part of it, if you scroll down the second page, well, it might be second and third page, it just like re-outlines. Basically, that's already in the student code of conduct, but just like re-outlining and specifying for travel with student government, like what the guidelines are that you're expected to like be with the group and like go to all the group activities and stuff like that. So every person would need to fill that out before the travel takes place. So that we have those all on file.
Yeah.
So for like smaller trips and stuff, you know, if it's a club, right, that's gonna go to, I don't know, we were talking about like the QRCs, like, oh, it'd be cool if we went to like the Castro Theater for a trip or something. Okay, great, like everyone fills out the form, Katie takes them, or I go with them and I charge it on my credit card, right? Like there's not a lot of logistics to plan, but for some bigger trips, like some clubs have wanted to do like bigger travel, like to like conferences that are away. Or mainly for like executive council organizing travel for bigger groups for our like conferences and stuff. It's really important to have that plan like in advance. So I think I'll talk more with like exec council about the specifics, but having like kind of an outline of like how much you think it's going to cost for this particular conference, how many people you want. And having had some of those conversations so that when your council approves it, it makes it really easy for our office to then go through and just book things and not have to like hunt down and find more information. So often for the exec travel, I think over time, like our student leaders, including Heather, have like helped create like a form to send out to see who's interested. And it's very comprehensive. I feel like it includes like every possible case. We like added something last time, we're like, okay, it's like everything. So that we can fill out the form and we can say, okay, this person's vegetarian, right? Like whatever we need to know, or tell the airport, tell the airline, we can do once it's been approved. I think making sure for exec that like we know a lot of the trips that are gonna be happening, and so doing that work, whether that's like you wanna have a couple people work on it offline and bring it back, to get things approved well in advance. I would say we're gonna like come up with some like specific time guidance, but I would say for most trips, like a month in advance at least is really helpful. Because it also allows us to, we could pay the hotel and we could pay, what else? Some of the other things like in advance with a check to the company. And because it's a lot of money, especially like when we go to DC and stuff.
Mhm.
And so the college credit card can only charge so many things, and so keeping that open to be able to purchase like food and things like that. And doing as many of the purchases in advance as possible. And that helps us make sure that like there's still rooms left in the hotel, that we get maybe the early bird, the cheaper price for things. So yeah, that's true for like basically all the like kind of AS like travel. Obviously it's like, you know, there's some travel where we're driving, like in last year GA was really close, it was in South San Francisco, we just drove there, so slightly less logistics. Then there's some conferences where we're flying to LA that, you know, we're getting on an airplane, we're getting in a hotel, those level of logistics, and so that's gonna take a bit, like, you want more lead time for those. And then if we do DC again, any travel out of the state also requires an additional form that's not here. A college form, travel requisition form that everyone would need to complete. And have signed, and we would need to get board approval, which we can only get once a month because there's only one board meeting a month now where they're approving like regular travel documents and stuff. And so we have to have that travel approved by the board in advance of the travel taking place. So just thinking about like that's not until spring, but if we can get that sorted, figure out who's going and whatever by the end of this semester or really early spring semester so that we don't have to worry about that. And our office doesn't book anything until the travel's been approved. So like for the ones that are, you know, aren't out of the state, like as long as we do all this stuff, we get it approved, we can start purchasing things. But for the one to go out of state, like we want to make sure that we have the approval from the college to go before we start spending the council, the students' money, because if they say no, then, you know, that doesn't really happen very often, but we want to make sure we're doing things in like the correct order. And also just wanting to highlight that like you all are kind of like creating the scaffolding, who you want to go, like what's the situation, voting on that, and then the ball gets passed to our department. And so we're the ones that are purchasing things, making reservations, like all of that happens by staff on the team, not by students. And then I try to send very thorough emails to y'all with like the packing list and here's everything that I know I don't want to forget. And also if there's any expectation for you all to like pay for meals or other things. And I think for some of the bigger trips, we can have conversations too. If you all as like a counselor, like I know for like DC, people like were like, oh, like kind of interested in doing things offsite. So if you want to include some of that in your kind of travel proposal, we can like try to take that into account as we're planning and stuff. So that we can make sure, yeah, people get things like get to have a good experience. Because really we want to make sure that like as many students as possible can have a good experience and be able to like, yeah, like some people's like first time ever like getting on a plane or like being in DC, right? Like so being able to, yeah, make sure that we have the opportunity to do that by following all of our. Yes.
I'm gonna need a redo of the last, I don't know how many years, of student leadership, if this is how it's gonna be moving forward for y'all, just saying, we didn't have that luxury, y'all very lucky. Well, I mean, like, we go to do the thing and that's it, we go home, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I
It's
do.
limitations.
You know, bitch. I went all out to the mall. Whoa.
Nice kidding. No.
Jackie was there. Jackie went with her to the mall.
Oh, no.
Of course Jackie was with her, so that's not
That's
about
how
her. She has to
we
go
all
with
do.
that. Exactly.
We
In the
don't go
mall.
anywhere else, we hang out, pull something, I promise you.
No, I believe.
I'm grown up,
Okay.
wasn't going to no club.
Excuse me.
Over this hijab.
Excuse me.
That's all right.
It's gonna be true.
Yeah, no, but I wanna say that is my personal experience as a student leader is my first time traveling anywhere outside of like the state was through student leadership. And like I just as a student and a student parent with 3 kids did not have the financial resources to be going elsewhere, so didn't have those opportunities. So I do think that there has to be perks and there has to be some sort of privileges for student leaders. Like it can't always all be work and there needs to be built-in times to like also learn and grow, like, you know. And I think that happens both at the conference and outside the conference, you know, nothing crazy, but like I do think on the DC trip it would have been nice to be able to visit some of the historical museums that exist that are free. So Yeah, or Howard.
Yeah.
And Howard.
Educational
Not
Howard.
Howard,
It's a long trip too. There's like that one, there's like a little more time. So yeah, I think figuring out that balance too, making sure people also have time to like rest and recoup is also like, I know I needed more solo time on that trip to rest and recoup and plan for things.
It's
But-
just gonna be like.
but I think-
this, 'cause-
Yeah, the more that we know in advance that you all have like thought out and talked about, the easier it makes for us to like make it happen, like help make it happen for you.
And then, maybe we could do a recap after each trip. I know they're making us
That's
do it
great.
after, but they're making us do it
100%.
after, we have to do a
So,
recap.
yeah.
Yeah, feedback.
That's something that we definitely wanna do. We wanna do an expectation and a recap afterward. But,
Yeah, did something, you know.
Yeah.
What you learned during the conference.
You know what I'm saying?
All of this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Opportunity.
I actually specifically remember like when I was part of council, we used to do that. Like, that's like part of. Nah, I have to. I got.
Okay. That wasn't about you. That wasn't about you.
No, I'm messing. Voodoo knows I'm playing, but Addison does have her hand up just in case, sorry.
I thought it was from earlier.
Can we see if it's in the chat? Does she know? I'm assuming she knows she has to write it.
Yeah.
Now she put it.
Okay, sorry.
Can we see if it's something in the chat?
Yeah, we can.
Cause let's not.
We're caught up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Most of it, I think for most of the clubs and stuff, it's like, you know who your advisor is. And for some of the like other orgs, like if your advisor can't go, you can see if like someone else is able to. But like ultimately, like the advisor needs to approve of like the group travel or the club travel. And for, I think for AS things, like for everything, just making sure like, hey, Jack, are you available the next weekend? I try to like block time out for a lot of those things
Yeah.
from the get-go, because I know when many of them are. But just making sure like, hey, like we have advisors, they are able to go, like, and having some of those things in place. Hey,
What is this again?
we're at a training for associate students. You're welcome to come and have a seat if you'd like. We're talking about travel.
Oh, it's because I have a class in a couple minutes. I was looking for Jackie.
Okay. We're doing a training right now, but if you want to send an email, I can get back to you about a time we can check in. Yeah. Yeah, good to see
You as
you.
well.
What else? Oh, the other thing is like, I think part of the like updated guidelines is we want to have like a clear kind of like deadline. So like, I know that there were a few times last year where like we got real close to the deadline and it just made it really chaotic and difficult for us to be able to book things, or there's a lot of things we had to pay for out of pocket and stuff. So well, we're gonna talk more about that and put it in the outline, but having more of a clear, like, you all can do whatever travel, like organize whatever travel you want to do within this, like, this guidance, but if it's 2 weeks before and we're trying to go to LA, like, we might need to say sorry, like, that's not possible at this point. And I hope that can kind of be respected, right? Cause we wanna help you do like the best we can and like, you know, to get you there, but also we need to have like kind of a line where it's like what's possible and reasonable for us to be able to do while, you know, doing all the other stuff.
I feel like there's actual limitations, right? Like
Yeah.
there's limitations where actually the hotel room is booked.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
things that actually don't make it feasible. But outside of that, also I feel like everybody participating in that trip should have enough leeway to make sure they're available to attend that trip. So I think the more time the better for everybody involved.
It's more expensive the closer you get to the.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So
been multiple times where we had to pay late registration fees for conferences because things took time. Yeah.
And I was gonna say, I'm not gonna say it that way. Let me just say this. There's also the issue of people wanting to go but not making quorum. So like, let's not make it seem as if everybody was there. Everybody wasn't there. No, I'm just saying that was the thing. This is why quorum is very important on all levels. It's like you cannot sit there and be like, oh, I want to go do this thing or I want to be a part of this thing, but I'm not showing up. That makes no sense. And then you're expected to believe that everybody's going to be able to do it without you when you haven't even checked in. You know, it's about making sure that, and I'll just use Jackie, Amy, Guru knows, hey, look, I might not be able to make it to XYZ, but I want to make sure that I am going to be a part of blase that I said I was going to do. And making sure that conversation is happening so they are aware, so y'all are aware, and it's like, okay, I can you don't gotta necessarily make the point. You just like, oh yeah, so-and-so told me that they won't be here today, or they won't be at da-da-da meeting. But they did say that they would do X, Y, Z, make sure you hit them up. That's something that we need to know, because sometimes our peers are not gonna come to us, they're gonna come to y'all. And it's one thing if y'all know and don't share it until later, it's a whole nother thing if they're not even sharing it with you. And that's usually how it goes, nobody is saying nothing to y'all, and we all looking like, doop, 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 where are these people? You know,
Like for meetings and stuff.
for meetings,
Yeah.
for events, if you say you're coming to something, if you say you're volunteering to something, and you don't show up, like, we got a situation now, cause we looking for you at 11:30, it's 11:50, and you know where to be found. But you didn't tell Jackie you couldn't make it no more, you right.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people do come to me to be like, hey, I can't come to the thing. And that's good for me to be aware, but I also try to make sure that it gets bounced back that like, I'm not the one that you're accountable to. You guys are accountable to each other. And it's important for the chair of the committee that you're missing or whoever was in charge of that event.
Yeah.
It's most important for them to know that you're not gonna be there. And so I think like we talked about a little bit in Ocean yesterday, like texting the group chat of the body in which the thing is being organized, then I'm a part of it. The chairs, like everybody knows.
Yeah.
So I agree, yeah. And I think, yeah, we can try to get some stuff like back prepped too, if you guys have like, you know, the next few trips together and like have it all organized, we can like approve them together to try to avoid, you know, and hopefully we'll have really great forum and everything will be like we can do business.
Hopefully.
But you know,
Yes, like yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday,
Okay.
everybody, the seats were full. Okay?
yeah,
I-
it's great.
Just to chime in on what you said, Devonja, I agree with you. And I feel like having true yes, and like I think
Yeah.
Neche was saying that yesterday, having saying true yeses and true nos. Like if you cannot make something that's I think fine, but clearly communicating that rather than and most of all, I feel like you're accountable to the students that elected you.
Say that one more time. A little louder.
Little louder.
In the back.
Everybody-
So I think that's the thing you should have on the front of your mind. But that's the last slide. I feel like the moral of the story for today is it's a bureaucratic institution. There's a lot of peoples and stakeholders involved, but on our end, we'll try to be supportive as much as possible. I know there's a lot of forms, a lot of process that we went over today. This is just the start. I will always be a resource. Jackie's a resource. We'll have a new person now. So whatever questions you might have after this is just the start. Cool. Any questions in the chat? In the Zoom? If not, thank you. And thank you for bearing with us. We are having technology issues currently. So that's why we cannot hear your voices, but hopefully that will be fixed by next week. Okay, cool.
Cool.
Thank you.
Do you want to end the recording?
Thank you. Thank you, Hashim. Appreciate you.
Or you do like
I have to figure this out.
yeah. And then when you end it to
Jackie, very hilarious. That guy.